Hey everybody, welcome to the Book of Joe, my variety channel. It's time for a new episode of Sports Talk. Now, normally I would call this segment Baseball Talk, but we're going to do something special. We are going to do the predictions for the 2018 National Hockey League. Now, I'm a big Ducks fan, have been since the inaugural season. However, I don't follow hockey super closely, so any type of guess, I would just be a guess at this point. If I'm making any predictions, it's just going to be a guess. So that's why I'm going to bring a special guest on today. I'm going to turn this over to my friend Ryan Willer from RTOD Productions, who actually follows hockey and can give us a true breakdown on the 2018 playoff landscape, starting with the Western Conference. Take it away, Ryan.
Thank you, Joe. Hi, everybody. I am Ryan Willer. I am here in Willer's Bar with my beer. I want to stay refreshed while I do this. I am by no means a hockey expert. I am here to just give a sort of average Joe's, if you will, opinion on what I think is going to happen in this year's playoffs. I am wearing my Dallas Stars shirt because I wanted to be fair. This is one of my teams, and they're not in it. My other team is the Kings, and I'm going to try not to be biased when I get to them because they are in it. So I will take you through each series that's going to be happening, starting with the Western Conference and the first series, which is number one seeded Nashville against the second wild card Colorado Avalanche. And this is probably one of the only series, I think, in the first round that is kind of one-sided. I think you got to go with Nashville. They are the top pick in Vegas right now to win the Stanley Cup at 400-1 odds. So they are everybody's best bet, I guess you could say, to win it right now. They're the top pick. They won the President's Trophy. They had 53, 18, and 11 record, 28, 9, and 4 at home. That's amazing. And considering they have last year as sort of an experience run, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they won it. I know. Also considering that Colorado kind of stumbled down the stretch. They had a couple opportunities to clinch about the time that the Kings and the Ducks clinched their spots, and then they lost a couple of games. They did get in on the last game and a win against St. Louis, another team that was stumbling, but you've got to go with Nashville on this. I mean, Colorado does have a star player in Nathan MacKinnon. He had a fabulous year. He's a runner for the Hart Trophy. I'm kind of hoping Kopitar takes that. Again, biased Kings fan here, but Nathan MacKinnon certainly deserving of that. Led the team in scoring. Colorado does have some defense. Sam Girard and Eric Johnson. I mean, they're solid defensemen and a great goalie in Jonathan Bernier, who was the Kings' backup at one time. But all in all, I think Nashville is the safe bet, and I think that they are probably going to take it very handedly. The same cannot be said for the second series on the list here, which is number 2 Winnipeg against number 3 Minnesota. This is one of 3 series that I'm really excited about because I think it is just a total coin toss. I mean, these are 2 really great teams. Winnipeg, kind of one of those teams that was quietly winning, and 13 points separated these teams between second and third. And the Jets were only 3 points away from catching Nashville, yet they were kind of off the radar all season. They've got a big team. I mean, they're a big, strong team led by Dustin Byfuglien, Blake Wheeler. These are physical players that have gotten the job done all season, I think, for the team. But Minnesota's got an equally impressive lineup, and players like Parise and Eric Stahl and Jason Zucker. It's a big scoring team, and I would say they have the more experience, too. I mean, Minnesota has always kind of been a playoff team. I mean, they haven't had any huge runs, but they're always kind of there. They always make the playoffs. So all that considered, I think it's a coin toss, and it's just going to be a fun series to watch. Third series we have here is Las Vegas Golden Knights against the Los Angeles Kings. So first time an expansion team has been in the playoffs. When you've got a roster that includes James Neal, William Carson, David Perron, you're going to make the playoffs. No other expansion team in history has had a roster as impressive as Las Vegas. Obviously, there was a lot of rules changes, and Marc-Andre Fleury is their goaltender, so no expansion team has ever had that. So they've got a good team, and they've led that division pretty much from the get-go. LA, on the other hand, I would say has the experience as far as a collective team. The Las Vegas Golden Knights have a lot of experience, but all these players are coming from different teams, and the Kings still pretty much have a lot of their core group together, especially from the second time they won a cup. They also led the league in penalty kill, acquiring of Dion Phaneuf, has been amazing because it finally gives Drew Doughty some backup on defense, and he's another physical player who is up there with Doughty when you talk about career statistics and just overall ability. He's a great player, and obviously Jonathan Quick in goal. Pretty much offense against defense right here, I would say, and defense wins championships. So trying not to be biased here, but I really do think that the Kings will take this series. That's the matchup I wanted. I know in the last game, had they won, they would be playing Anaheim right now. So I'm kind of glad that they lost against the Stars in the last game, and now they are playing the Golden Knights. I think that is the better matchup for them, and I think that they'll take it. The last series that we have in the Western Conference is another coin toss, and as much as I don't like these teams as a fan, Anaheim and San Jose, it is going to be a fun series for a lot of people to watch because it is another total toss-up. These teams were separated by 1 point, and actually, if you put the Kings into the picture, all three of these California teams were each separated by a point in the final standing. So it's a coin toss all around, I think. So you've got Anaheim, you've got San Jose. I'm going to make a little joke here that it's the battle of the chokers because both of these teams have been known to choke in the playoffs, although I give a little bit of credit to Anaheim. I'll take them off of the choking list because they do have a Stanley Cup in recent history. But you've got some aging players on the Sharks in Joe Thornton and Brent Burns who have gone through many series of it going not the way that they wanted to. I know a couple years ago they did go to the finals, so at least they have that to their credit now. A lot of people kind of roll their eyes at San Jose nowadays. Again, the same could maybe be said for the Ducks because they have had this history of getting to Game 7s and then losing. Again, they have a Stanley Cup that is still in recent memory, so I don't think they're kind of put on that same list as San Jose. I will give a lot of credit to Anaheim. They came back this season. They had a lot of injuries early on, and they were kind of not in the playoff picture. And then the second half of the season, they came all the way back once they got healthy. I think this series will go 7 games. I think that the winner will play the Los Angeles Kings, because as I said, I predicted LA in the previous series. And so then obviously you've got LA against Anaheim or San Jose. I think that whoever plays in that series against the Kings, should the Kings win, mind you, that's another coin toss. As I said, 1 point separating all these teams. So my prediction here is that we will have a California team in the conference finals, probably against Nashville. I won't go any further than that.
All right, let's now move over to the Eastern Conference. We already know the Ducks are going to win it all in the Western Conference, regardless of what you think. But let's move it on over to the Eastern Conference.
All right, the East. Number 1 series, you've got the number 1 seeded Lightning against the New Jersey Devils. Kind of like the other number 1 series in the West, Nashville against Colorado. This one, I don't want to say it's one-sided. It's just, Tampa Bay, it's been an interesting story, at least from my point of view. They won a cup some years back, 2004, which was the year before the NHL went on strike. And then when we came back from the strike, there was all these rules changes, and it's been going ever since. But they won a Stanley Cup in 2004. And then they kind of disappeared for a while, I felt. And then I would say the last 3 or 4 years, they've come on as this really strong team that is always kind of vying for a Stanley Cup. They're one of the top teams every year. They lost the President's Trophy by only 3 points to Nashville. Tons of experience on the team, led by Steven Stamkos and Ryan Callahan. Ryan McDonough leads them back on defense. New Jersey, kind of an unexpected year. I would say maybe the one team in all the playoffs that really I wouldn't think anybody would have expected. They kind of squeaked in, kind of that quiet winning. They've got a solid goaltender in Corey Schneider, I would say. It's been kind of a big shoes to fill ever since Brodeur retired, and Schneider's had to kind of fill it. But I would put my money on Tampa Bay. And maybe I'm just overlooking this because I really want to get to the next series, which is probably my favorite series, or at least is going to be my favorite series to watch. Another coin toss in Boston and Toronto. I don't think I could be more excited about a series than this one. I'm hoping for Toronto in this one just because I'd like to see them win another Stanley Cup. It's been over 50 years now, or maybe this is the 50-year mark. I don't remember. But it's been a long time for those fans in Toronto. It's just going to be a fun series, a classic Original Six matchup here. Toronto has been building a team the last couple of years that I think is bound to win a Stanley Cup at some point, led by their young star, Austin Matthews, one of the best players in the game today. And they've also acquired experience in Patrick Marleau. I was talking about the Sharks and some of their aging players, and Marleau got out of the game there, and he's in Toronto now. So I think that's huge for him. to have a veteran like Patrick Marleau, who has experienced a lot of playoff defeat, but does have experience in going all the way to the final round now, as he did a couple of years ago with the Sharks. And as far as Boston goes, they just continue to be a solid team. They're a classy team when guys like Zdeno Chara, their captain, and Brad Marchand. And they've acquired Rick Nash from New York this year, so that's been a huge boost for them. So it could go either way. I'm hoping for Toronto. That's just my own personal choice, but it's just going to be a fun series to watch. This one is interesting to talk about. This is Washington and Columbus. And the reason I think that it's interesting to talk about is obviously the main focus here, I think, and maybe it's on the minds of a lot of people, I don't know, is, of course, Alex Ovechkin. What's going to happen this year in the playoffs to the Capitals? Someone had said, and I don't remember who said this, but I disagreed with it. And I was talking to some of my friends who are hockey fans also, that someone had said that the Capitals are the team of now. They are the team of now, whatever that means. And I could not disagree more. Since the Ovechkin era, which has been 12 years ago, the Capitals have not advanced past the second round, which is shocking when you think of Alexander Ovechkin. He is kind of on this list of people, as I said, I hate to sound cliche or ignorant by saying chokers, right? But this list of people who have had amazing seasons, like Joe Thornton, the Sedin twins, who have sadly retired and they're never going to win a Stanley Cup, who have remarkable regular seasons and then just can't quite get it done in the playoffs. But I will say at least the Sedins and Thornton made it to the Stanley Cup finals. They get a chance to play in the finals. Ovechkin has not gotten past the second round. A lot of that has been at the hands of the Penguins, a team that we'll get to in a minute. Last year against Toronto, which was the team that Washington played in the first round, they beat Toronto, but they did not beat them handedly. And the Capitals were the high seed, Toronto was the very low seed. And Toronto, with Austin Matthews and the rest of their firepower, gave Washington a run for their money. And a lot of people thought, and the prediction came true, that when Washington made it to the second round, the fatigue would have set in. The fact that they were worn out a little bit by Toronto. And so I do think that they'll beat the Columbus Blue Jackets, but how handedly will they win that? And how much of a fight will Columbus put up, and how much will Columbus wear them down? Columbus has got a pretty strong roster when you think about it. Thomas Vanek, Mark Letestu, Nick Foligno, Sergei Bobrovsky back in net. I got to favor Washington, but I just wonder what their mindset is going to be if this goes to 7 games or so, and it's the edge of your seat kind of win, which on paper, it probably shouldn't be when you look at Washington's roster. But I favor Washington, but I don't know what will happen to them in the second round because of the next series. Number 2, Pittsburgh against the number 3 Philadelphia Flyers. Is a three-peat possible for Pittsburgh? They're the first team since Detroit to repeat, which Detroit did it in 97-98. Pittsburgh last 2 years has won the Stanley Cup, and Sidney Crosby has won the Conn Smythe Trophy both years. My opinion on Sidney Crosby is that he is a class player. There is a lot of hate for Crosby out there. I will give my opinion on that. I think it is pure jealousy. The guy's a class player. I don't see him as a crybaby. A lot of people call him a crybaby. I don't think he is. I think he's the Gretzky of his era. Obviously, no one in today's NHL is going to go out and score 80, 90, 100 goals a season like Gretzky did. But in this age that we live in with hockey, in this era, I think that Sidney Crosby is the Wayne Gretzky of this era. And he has a lot of help, as did Gretzky back in the 80s when he was on the Oilers, with players like Malkin, Kessel, Hornquist. Letang leads them back on the blue line. It's a solid team led by Sidney Crosby. He scored some amazing goals this season if you haven't seen the highlights. I think they'll beat Philadelphia. I think that Claude Giroux, their captain, will do a valiant job in leading Philadelphia against Pittsburgh. Brian Elliott finally has another chance to play for a playoff team. But I got to favor Pittsburgh in this one because Pittsburgh finished about where they do every season. They've never been a dominant regular season team. They've been on the high end, but they finished about where they did the last 2 seasons. And then come playoff time, they hit that gas pedal and they start going. I predict another Pittsburgh-Washington second round. The Capitals have fallen to the Penguins quite often think a three-peat for Pittsburgh is possible. I'll just leave it at that.
So something that's happened this year that has never happened before is that there was an expansion team, and the expansion team, the Las Vegas Knights, actually made the playoffs. Now, is that something that's kind of rare? Give me your thoughts on that, if you would, Ryan.
So my opinion on the Golden Knights being in the playoffs is I'm kind of back and forth with it. A lot of people are irritated. No team has ever made playoffs in their inaugural season since the 60s. When other teams started coming into the league throughout the 80s and 90s and 2000s, they don't get into like their third or fourth season. And here come the Las Vegas Knights, and they're in right off the bat. And not just in, but dominantly in. And it has to do with the lottery draft. Each team had to give up a player that went to the Golden Knights. And obviously, like, they could protect certain players, but teams of the past, they built their teams from scratch. I don't necessarily mind the new lottery draft, as they called it. What irritates me is when you hear about it. You hear about all these statistics about the Golden Knights, the first team to do this, first team to do that. It kind of discredits the teams of the past, which didn't have the opportunities that they did. So that's what irritates me more than anything about it.
In the playoffs, I mean, there's a lot of teams in here that have been in the playoffs multiple years, including the Ducks, who have been in, I want to say it's like 5-6 years in a row now. How big of a part is experience in the playoff landscape?
I think experience is definitely a huge part of a Stanley Cup winning team. I had mentioned that Toronto had acquired Patrick Marleau because they have a very young team, and having that, I think, is going to be huge for them. Experience is key. Again, going back to the Kings and the Golden Knights series, the Kings have a lot of experience, and they have a lot of experience as a team, unity with that team, as opposed to the Knights, who these players are all playing together for the first time. The long and short of it is that, yes, experience is very, very key to winning a series.
So I've been hearing this, other analysts have been saying this. Do you believe that we are going to see another Predators-Penguins championship series for the Cup?
I think it could be possible. It happened about 10 years ago when Detroit and Pittsburgh played each other back-to-back, and Detroit won the first one, Pittsburgh won the second one. You could maybe see that. I talked about how the Penguins are right in the spot that they usually are, which is just below the top teams. They're that number 2 seed, and that's kind of always where they are. And then they take off once the playoffs start. You got Nashville, who won the President's Trophy, and everybody is predicting them to win it. As I said, the odds in Vegas they're favoring Nashville right now. So maybe we'll see a repeat of what happened long ago. Again, this is taking biasm out of it because, I'm sitting here thinking, go Kings, go Kings, go Kings. But realistically, Nashville and Pittsburgh is very possible. And I think it's also possible that Nashville would win it this time, much like the Red Wings and the Penguins back when they played each other back-to-back. And you had Detroit taking it the first year, Pittsburgh taking it the second year.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Well, there you have it. So if you are a big hockey fan, it looks like it's going to be a fun playoff series. Of course, Ryan is completely wrong. It's all going to be the Ducks this year, number 1. It's time for us to win again. All that other mumbo-jumbo that he's talking about, whatever, doesn't matter. It's all about the Ducks. So anyway, if you're still watching, I appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, throw up those thumbs, and in the comments below, tell me who you think is going to win the Stanley Cup and or what your predictions are. Hit that subscribe button, throw up those thumbs, and until next time, everybody, have a great one.